Welcome to a brand new episode of Pixel Peek. Thanks for tuning in on this lovely Wednesday afternoon.
There's no Valentine's Day related news this week, Kristen.
But we can still make the puns. Whoa, I'm getting really weird deja vu right now.
Of course we can make the puns. Who doesn't love a festive episode?
That was weird. Anyway, in this week's news, annual gaming convention PAX East is starting to hold hands with big names both inside and outside of the gaming industry, even Amazon.
And Activision Blizzard is finally making up with fans about Warcraft 3 Reforged. It was totally because we did an analysis on the whole thing last week.
Totally. Unfortunately, news this week isn't all good because Rockstar Games' Dan Houser fell out of love with the company he's been a part of for over a decade. Nobody is happy about that one.
At least following the news, we have an abundance of hearts. Our Xbox analyst Bobby Padgett is taking a look at the latest Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC, Remind, in this week's game review.
And in this week's analysis, PlayStation Analyst Bianca Bortoluzzi is giving us the scoop on Sony Interactive Entertainment Japan's new partner and studio head Nicolas Doucet.
Sounds like there's a lot to love about this week's episode, so let's jump right in. I'm Sydney Thompson.
And I'm Kristen Lawrence, and we hope you enjoy your stay here on Pixel Peek.
YouTuber Alan Pan has come up with an interesting way to play Death Stranding. Death Stranding has been described on the internet jokingly as a walking simulator. So, in light of the new year and how most people decide to make a goal to exercise, Pan decided to come up with his own invention to make this goal something people will stick to. He modded a treadmill and hooked it up to his PS4, and it works exactly as you might think. When playing, you can only walk in-game by walking on the treadmill, and players hold a controller for access to the rest of Death Stranding's controls. A stabilized backpack was also added so players can stay upright while they run, and also take on the look of Sam Bridges, Death Stranding's protagonist. After Pan had finished his invention, he brought over some friends to try out his new device. All of his friends took turns playing Death Stranding using the treadmill, and in the YouTube video, 2 players were able to play for over 4 minutes and tap out after they got too tired. They were able to deliver their first package successfully, but in the end, they did get overwhelmed with the prolonged use of the treadmill controller. All his friends were exhausted at the end, and based on the 1.2 million views on the video since its upload on January 31st, alternate control schemes are interesting to fans on Death Stranding. This isn't the first time a game has been modded to play more true to life either. Last year, Twitch streamer Dylan Rudism-Beck created a fully functional Goose outfit controller, another news story we covered on Pixel Peek last season. We'll have to wait and see what new innovative control schemes modders come up with as new viral video games see release.
Amazon Business Development, Wired Productions, and the Irregular Corporation are the latest names looking to meet with indie developers next month at PAX East. The trio will be a part of the GameIndustry.biz Investment Summit, taking place on February 27th in Boston, and in hopes to receive more funding for games and studios. These companies will join the likes of PlayStation, Ubisoft, Sega, and several other studios that will be announced as the event draws closer. Tickets are currently on sale and include lunch and a 2-day pass to PAX East. Over 70 indie developers so far have signed up for the event, and several talks and panels have been confirmed. Shuhei Yoshida will host a special indie developer panel with Eric Shahe of Pixel Reef, Robin Hunick of Funamina, Barry Mead of Fireproof Games, and Chris Piotrowski of Cappy Games. A networking lunch will follow the talks and panels and the meeting system. Those who purchase tickets are asked to fill in a form that details themselves and their game. That form is presented to all attending investors and publishers, who will then pick which developers they'd like to see. The deadline for meeting requests is Friday, February 14th, and publishers and investors looking to attend the summit are encouraged to buy a table to meet with studios.
Last week, PC analyst Walker Peters talked about Warcraft 3 Reforged, a remake of the real-time strategy game that launched with worldwide skepticism and disappointment. Consumers say the title does not live up to the expectations Blizzard set when it announced the game in 2018, as the update changed how the game works online. Since our analysis segment last week, Blizzard has apologized to fans and has announced what its plans for the future are regarding Warcraft 3 Reforged. Blizzard plans to release a single large patch that tackles the coloration, shading, animations, audio issues, and user interface bugs. Online, on the other hand, will take some more time. Blizzard commented on online functionality, saying, "We'll share release plans as work progresses in the coming weeks. Please be assured that the team is hard at work on standing these features up." The most consistent complaint from fans came from the issue of cutscenes that do not look like what's shown when the game was first announced. Blizzard acknowledged fans' comments, citing it was a creative decision in order to not compromise the classic look of the game. Blizzard said, "We went a little deeper into the thought process behind that at the show, but the main takeaway is that the campaigns tell one of the classic stories in Warcraft history, and we want to preserve the true spirit of Warcraft 3 and allow players to relive those unforgettable moments as they were." Since acknowledging Warcraft fans' backlash, Blizzard is currently offering full refunds to those dissatisfied with their purchase.
Rockstar Games have announced that their co-founder, Dan Houser, is leaving the company after 2 decades. The game developer veteran's official last day at Rockstar will be March 11th, 2020, but it's not completely out of left field. Within Rockstar's announcement, it was revealed that Houser has been on an extended break from the company since the spring of 2019. There is no mention of the reasons for the year-long break or Houser's departure, but fellow co-founder and brother of Dan Houser, Sam Houser, will continue his role with the company after Dan Houser leaves. The two founded Rockstar Games back in 1998 as Take-Two Interactive. Dan Houser was instrumental in the creation, writing, and promotion of the Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption series of games, serving as the lead writer on Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. He was also a producer and writer on Bully and Max Payne 3. Because of Dan's significance within Rockstar and a majority of their single-player storytelling campaigns, fans have become skeptical, and stocks have dropped drastically since this announcement. After shares decreased in price by $8 in a single day, around $800 million of the company's total value left with Dan Houser. What this means for the future of Rockstar Games and the stories they tell, fans will have to wait and see.
The coronavirus has begun to interrupt the games industry as the Chinese government has begun to take strict preventative measures. With the number of total infections now exceeding 28,000 and the latest death toll reaching 600, the international health community is attempting to find a vaccine. While it is not yet known how severely the games industry is impacted by the virus, the Chinese government has extended Lunar New Year to February 10th. The virus has already caused a delay with Nintendo Switch production, which CEO Shuntaro Furukawa described as unavoidable. Ken Rumpf, an analyst for investment banking group Jefferies, estimated the disruption caused will see development schedules fall behind if it exceeds much further. Rumpf commented, "If shutdowns exceed a month or so, game schedules will be delayed." Rumpf continued saying, "New consoles may likewise suffer supply issues from a prolonged disruption ahead of their fall 2020 planned launches." Outer Worlds and the Oculus Quest are two gaming properties that have been hit by the coronavirus outbreak.
PlayStation has announced the closing of its third VR game studio, PlayStation Manchester, before it has even made its first game. The firm confirmed to GamesIndustry.biz that it intends to close it as part of our efforts to improve efficiency and operational effectiveness. PlayStation Manchester continues, we understand the entire studio has been made redundant. It is the third UK studio that PlayStation has closed, following Guerrilla Cambridge Studios closing back in 2017 and Evolution Studio in 2016. While Guerrilla Cambridge spent their final days on VR titles like Riggs, Mechanized Combat League, Evolution spent most of their development time on motorsports games with more traditional controls. Two VR studios closing in recent years is surprising to many, considering that PSVR has always been heavily emphasized by Sony in press conferences and announcements. Several PlayStation VR exclusives have been released for the platform since its introduction several years ago, but the platform has still sold poorly alongside its competitors on PC, the Valve Index, HTC Vive, and Oculus line of products. As PSVR's future becomes more uncertain, all we can do is wait and see which direction Sony Interactive Entertainment takes with its future titles being developed in the UK. And that wraps up this week's news. Let's take a look at this week's game review.
Surprise, I'm not Bianca, I'm Xbox Analyst Bobby Padgett, and I'm here to bring you a review full of hearts, and heartless, and nobodies. Let's join hands and take a look at Kingdom Hearts 3's first DLC, Remind.
Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind is an expansion for Kingdom Hearts 3 released on January 23rd, 2020 for PS4 and will release February 25th, 2020 for Xbox One. Remind is set immediately following the events of the final battle of Kingdom Hearts 3 and seeks to fill in some of the more confusing parts of the main game's ending cutscenes, using time travel, because Kingdom Hearts was way too easy to follow before.
There's a lot I don't understand.
In it, you play as Sora, the Keyblade wielder with the power of waking, and the primary protagonist for most of the series thus far. But now, in order to restore the love of his life, Kairi, he must travel back in time to the final act of Kingdom Hearts 3 and relive the same battles, but with a twist. You can enter the hearts of the supporting cast, allowing you to play as them. This would be an interesting premise if it wasn't just used as a way to rehash the exact same boss fights from the main game. When these boss battles start, you have the ability to choose between Sora or the character who stands beside him when the pre-fight cutscene ends, which is a toss-up between Aqua, Riku, Roxas, or Kairi. It's worth noting that Aqua plays almost exactly the same as she did in Kingdom Hearts 3, with the addition of a team attack for her fight. Roxas had his own game back on the DS called 358 Days Over 2, and Kingdom Hearts 3 also had two sections where you played as Riku, making Kairi the only newcomer. Other than a couple of moves, there isn't much of a difference in these fights from when we were in the main game. Thankfully, not everything is simply recycled. One battle sees you in control of the entire supporting cast as they fight to hold off an endless swarm of shadowy enemies. The sheer scale of the battle made it feel more impactful than anything else over the entire course of the game. While there are no brand new worlds to explore, Remind does open up one world to more free roaming. Scala ad Caelum, which served only as the backdrop for a few boss battles near the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, has received some fun rails to ride on and 3 new puzzles to solve, all of equally lackluster quality. What's worse is that the game makes it seem like there is a 4th puzzle by making you find 4 pieces of Kairi's heart, only to play a cutscene showing where the final piece is and then put it behind a boss fight, which wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't the heartless Darkseid, who has appeared in the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3 and was also the very first boss fight in the very first Kingdom Hearts. While these puzzles seem thrown in just to break up the fighting and not really original, there was one puzzle that I actually thought was kind of fun and innovative. After the awesome battle where you control the entire supporting cast, everybody gets separated and sent for a bunch of floating keyholes filled with darkness. This is when you jump out of King Mickey's heart and into a keyhole, and you must use your magic light beam from your Keyblade to connect what was probably 100 keyholes in the sky. When you hit one keyhole, it lights up, as do the keyholes connected to it. If you hit the glowing keyholes, you can light a bunch of keyholes at once. Even though it was super easy, it wasn't in the main game of Kingdom Hearts 3, so it was actually something new, and really what this DLC needed. Unfortunately, after a few more boss battles, Remind was over, and the game rewarded me with something called the Limit Cut episode. So I booted it up, and was greeted with the Final Fantasy characters shown off in the trailers, which would have been great if they did more than explain the premise of Limit Cut to Riku in a cutscene, then act as set dressing. Limit Cut is a boss rush, in which you play as a data construct of Sora and fight data versions of a bunch of bosses, which was also the premise of Kingdom Hearts Recoded, so nothing new there. But these bosses were powered up versions of bosses from the rest of the game. And these boss fights were described by game director Tetsuya Nomura as being hard enough to make you cry, and I can confirm that is the case.
Enjoy!
The only other feature included with this DLC is the premium starting menu, which opens up 2 extra choices at the beginning of the game. An extra easy mode, where you can regenerate health, enemies die in a single hit, and you can slap on as many abilities as you want, and pro mode, which lets you make the game significantly harder by making enemies tougher or giving yourself 1 HP if you're feeling really adventurous. So for $30, you get 3 to 4 hours of rehashed battles with some extra exposition, a boss rush that is incredibly difficult, and an option to choose between super easy and super hard modes for the main game. Regardless of a couple of fun moments in the Remind episode, this DLC is average at best. It's not worth the price of admission, and you'd be better off watching a playthrough on YouTube or just waiting for a sale.
Kingdom Hearts 3's first DLC, Remind, was not what I was expecting as a longtime Kingdom Hearts fan. Some of the experience was fun, but a lot of it unfortunately was just full of frustration and wasted potential. All I can say is, it wasn't a bad game, just not enough. That's all I have for this week's game review, so I'll pass it on over to our host, Laird Davis, for this week's analysis.
In preparation for the next generation of consoles, Sony is moving around some of their management and has made some pretty interesting choices. Here to talk with me about it is our PlayStation Analyst Bianca Bortoluzzi. Thank you for being here, Bianca.
Thank you for having me, Laird.
So who exactly is taking over the reins at SIE Japan?
That would be none other than Nicholas Doucette, right back here. He is best known for producing Astrobot Rescue Mission for the PlayStation VR.
Okay, and who is he taking over for?
He's taking over for Alan Becker, who, is stepping down from the studio.
All right, and Alan Becker, as I understand it, has a bit of a history at Sony. What has he been part of in the past?
Oh, he's been part of so much. He's produced Bloodborne, Journey, which is an awesome game, super beautiful, would 10 out of 10 recommend. Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, Heavy Rain, another awesome game, God of War, and more. He's been credited in over 150 games, and he's even had special thanks for even more. So he's very, very popular within the gaming industry, especially for Sony.
Yeah, so that's quite a portfolio, and that's hard to follow up, I'm going to be honest. So what does Doucette bring to the table that makes him a good replacement for Alan Becker?
Well, he has a lot of extensive knowledge in VR, and although he hasn't produced a ton of games, he's really forward-thinking and has a fresh perspective, which SIE Japan Studio could only benefit from. He also made the critically acclaimed game, as I mentioned earlier, Astrobot Rescue Mission. So many people fell in love with it, from its design to the gameplay, and it's for the PlayStation VR, and it's one of the most popular games for the PlayStation VR right now.
And so why is placing him at the Japanese studio so important for going forward into the future for Sony?
So the Japan studio is one of the most popular studios for Sony. They've released tons of awesome games, most notably Shadow of the Colossus, The Last Guardian, and Knack. And it's an important studio to have someone with fresh ideas and just an awesome perspective to go into.
And what other kind of replacements in management have been taking place in other studios for Sony approaching the announcement of the PS5?
So many. Sony's making a lot of changes. Sean Layden's departure as chairman from SIE Worldwide Studios, World War II. Herman Hulst's promotion to president as the SIE Worldwide Studio. And then Shuhei Yoshida has stepped down and is now, he now has a new position as head of an independent developed initiative.
Okay. And so we're approaching the next generation of consoles, and so really in the grand scheme of things, what do all of these management changes mean for Sony going forward?
Fresh ideas, new perspectives, due to Shuhei Yoshida and his new position, possible indie game interest, which Nintendo and Xbox have already shown, and PC's been the forerunner for that forever. And software ideas we may have never even seen before for the PS5. New management always means awesome, hot, new ideas, and Sony knows what it's doing with these management choices, so I leave it in their hands to bring an awesome PS5, which, yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's Sony.
I'm honestly looking really forward to the next gen as we see as various organizations mix it up and try new things.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for being here, Bianca.
Thank you for having me again.
All right. That's all for this week's analysis, so let's go ahead and pass it on over to Sydney and Kristen to wrap up this week's episode.
And I think that's all for episode 2 of this new season. We hope you adored it.
Deja vu is hitting especially hard today. but I can't quite put my finger on it.
What you can put your finger on is the like and follow buttons on our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PixelPeakAppTV.
You can also catch us on air Wednesday afternoons at 2 on WatchAppTV.com, Sky Best channels 20 and 1020, Spectrum channel 198, or on App State's campus television channel 23.3.
And be sure to check in on those channels on Valentine's Day during our airtime for a surprise special episode. Please save the date.
And of course, we couldn't have done it without our loving crew. Thanks to writers Jalen Curtin and Rebecca Larson, Xbox analyst Bobby Padgett, PlayStation analyst Bianca Bortoluzzi, and producers Tanner Mazzell, Elise Taylor, and Sydney Thompson for another infatuating episode.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here
on Pixel Peak.